And I have a question for you. I'm sure that you've probably thought about it before. I know that I have. It seems impossible to at least not have considered it. So, what would you do if you suddenly had a load of money just land in your lap? Maybe through inheritance, maybe your yard turned into an oil field, or you found a gold mine in your basement. Or maybe you just won the lottery. Let's stick with that. So, if you won the lottery, what would you do with all that money? So, go ahead, ask your neighbor, share your response with them. If you don't have a neighbor, it's all right to get up and move and find a neighbor. So go ahead and share with them. What would you do if you won the lottery and you had all that money? Right? Well, I'm assuming there were some good answers, considering there are a few giggles out there. But have you ever heard of the curse associated with winning such a grand amount of money? Simply having a ridiculous amount of money on hand is not the end of it. Almost without exception, every single lottery winner is hounded by friends, family, and beggars wanting a cut. They become the targets of scams, charities. You'd think that charities would be nice, right? And people they thought were friends. The Toronto Star shares a story of a school teacher who found himself suddenly winning $21 million. It reads, "The thrill of the millions evaporated quickly. Over the next few weeks, his world became a whirlwind of broken friendships and financial scams. Henshaw couldn't even return to his cozy loft apartment after collecting his check. He spent the first few weeks living in a hotel, mainly in an attempt to duck the media and stalkers. 6 hours after I won, some scam artist had already managed to get my credit card number. The charities started hammering me immediately," Henshaw says, smacking his fist into his hand. "My email box was full. And my phone was flooded with text messages. People were asking me to pay off student loans. I got 365 texts in the first day. What terrible people harassing someone for something that doesn't belong to them. It's like they feel entitled. Well, you won, therefore it's mine, right? How miserable it could be to lose family and friends, to have to completely give up your life, to change jobs, to change homes, to change cities. As we should know, there are some things more valuable than money, aren't there? There are words for people like these, are there not? A mooch, a leech, a bum, freeloader, scam artist, and many other things. People who act like this come off more than a little shameless and arrogant, don't they? Why would they think for some reason or another they deserve a slice of your winnings? The world has always been this way, though, hasn't it? We have always used one another for what we could get for ourselves. There is a reason our friends tend to be a lot more like us than not. There's a reason we spend our time around those who are more likable. Why do we spend time around pleasant people? Because they make our lives pleasant. Why do we avoid crabby people? Because they make my life miserable. We function in a commodity system in our world in which every action or friendship tends to be for the purpose of what can I get out of it. Now, this isn't to say that every relationship is like this. I would hope that we could say within the church that our relationships are not like this. There is a danger in every single relationship for them to become like this. But I think if Jesus has redeemed us, He's redeemed us from even that, has He not? But at the same time, we need to constantly be on guard against that temptation, of course, right? But to say Okay, every relationship is not like this, but to say that without constant vigilance and the patience of selfless love, every one of our lives will be infiltrated with the desire to use people for our own gain, whether it be for physical or emotional. This being said, I don't want to dwell too much on that, but this being said, we should realize something. If this is the way that the world functions, and it is without a doubt is, right? The question is not, will somebody use us, or will we use somebody else, or will somebody take advantage of us? But it's when and how many times. So then our question in our address today becomes not, will we be taken advantage of? Or should we stop taking advantage of other people? It's going to be, what will our reaction be when we become used or taken advantage of? What should we do in that instance when we realize, wow, they're only here for what they can get out of me? Do you realize that in the grand scheme of things, we have all won the lottery of life, so to speak? Think about it. Is life about money? Then what is life about? You may or may not have the money, but you do have something of much greater value. You've been given salvation, life abundant, grace, and mercy, more than you could ever deserve. It sounds a lot like winning the lottery, doesn't it? Getting a grand amount, more than you could ever handle, ever hold on to, or ever use up. And all of this by nothing that you have done of your own accord. Except that instead of you got the lucky number, it was offered to everyone, wasn't that? A life that overflows more than you could ever use or ever imagine. Inexplicable wealth, undeserved, unearned, and unmerited. With this wealth of life comes the blessing of God, a blessing we're meant to pass on. Blessings of forgiveness, generosity, love, mercy, favor, peace. And like when someone wins the lottery and are taken advantage of, someone will see your winnings and think you an easy target as well. So, do we turn them away? Do we begrudgingly give with a hardened and embittered heart? Or do we pour out all that we have, even in the middle of still pouring it out, knowing full well we are being taken advantage of? Do you know that the same thing took place many, many, many times in the Bible? God is continually taken advantage of. If I say the right words, or if I twist his arm the right way, then he will have to help me. The incredible part isn't that people think they can take advantage of God, is that God, for some reason or other, allows them to think that they are taking advantage of him. He doesn't end up calling them out on it. He even lets them. Look at the way that Jacob talked to him. Well, God, you said this, this, and this, so you have to do this. Right? God lets him. Well, why? Because his love, mercy, and grace are so great that he's willing to overlook even that. In the book of Exodus, Israel has essentially won the lottery. A man, Abraham, was chosen by God of nothing of his own doing. He did basically win the lottery. God went, let's spin the dial. There, you're mine. I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit more involved in that, but essentially, Abraham was not the most faithful. He was not the most righteous. He was not even the most qualified in his own story. Look at Abraham's story. Surely Melchizedek pops out as, he's a little more qualified than Abraham, is he not? Yet God chose him and said, I will make a people for myself through him. Undeserved, unmerited, unearned, overabundant, more than he could ever hold on to. Right? Nothing he's done of his own. Sounds a lot like winning the lottery, doesn't it? So then we have Israel, generations later, and they're in trouble. They've been subjected to the slavery of a cruel king and empire. In fact, it's an empire that wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for one of their fathers. But Israel, having by the grace of God, being chosen as His own people, they will not remain in Egypt. God steps down and in a great power, He rescues them. Right? Their God rescues them. Their lottery winnings rescue them. He will send great plagues and displays of power. He will show Pharaoh who is in charge. He will show them the error of their ways. And above all, He will show the world who these people belong to. Israel basically does nearly nothing. Okay? They cried out and they put some blood on the doorposts. They did basically nearly nothing. And yet they gain everything. But just like in sports, you ever notice that, okay, for example, the New York Giants are pretty popular right now, right? Why? Because they won the Super Bowl. Okay? People like to win. And so they grasp onto the winning team even if they last year hated them, right? And so they're like, well, I was with you all along, right? I knew you would do it. And so the same thing happens here. Israel is set free from Egypt, and Egypt is left crippled. But Israel doesn't leave alone, do they? In Exodus 12:38 it says that a mixed multitude also went with them. We talked about this. We talked about it this morning. So what's a mixed multitude? Well, it's various people not of Israel who are tagging along and joining the winning team. They're riding on Israel's coattails, bumming much of the blessing for themselves. Earning nothing of their own, they're taking what does not belong to them, basically. So what does Israel do? Do they go, get away, you bums, this is our blessing, you can't have any of this? No, rather, they institute provisions in their law so that these very ones who are tagging along on their coattails could have an opportunity to become a part of the community, so that these are no longer the blessings of ours which they are tagging along with, but rather these can become their blessings as well. I love the way that Terence Freetheim puts it. They were a mixed crowd consisting of more than the descendants of the 12 sons of Jacob. Many non-Israelites had been integrated into the community of faith. And other communities, no doubt, took advantage of the opportunity to choose freedom. Freedom for Israel means freedom for others. When the people of God are liberated, not only their own kind can come along. The benefits of freedom have a fallout effect on all those with whom they come in contact, whether they are people of faith or not. God's redemption is not for the chosen few. It's for the sake of all the world. Remember the initial promise to Abraham? He didn't say, you're blessed, so go take the land, right? He said, you are blessed to be a blessing. We keep going back to that over and over and over again. The favor that God has given to us is not meant to be hidden or hoarded, but it's meant to be extended to all the world. It's not even meant to say, okay, when you show up and try to steal our blessings, it's all right, here, you can have some. But we're supposed to go out and say, hey, we've got some extra blessings to spare here. You want some of this? Right? City on a hill cannot be hidden. Okay? Why'd you build the city on the hill? So that they can see it and come. We didn't build it in the valley so that if they happen to come across it, they can be a part of it. The world should see our blessing, every ounce of it. They should see it, they should want it, and they are going to take advantage of it to get it. Take advantage of us to get it. But this is not a bad thing. It is rather a good thing. Granted, they shouldn't be taking advantage of people. Yes, but if it means that they've come to see the blessings, and rather than using someone else's blessings, they're now able to experience the blessings of their own, then was that for better or for worse? We've been blessed in such a manner that if we are applying the blessing faithfully, if we are walking like Christ, then we are setting ourselves up to be taken advantage of. The only way for us to reveal the blessings of God and show the world the glory of the gift of God's Son is if we step out and become vulnerable. It's when we look and see that we are being taken advantage of, and yet we're okay with it, because it's more important that they see God than if we keep what's ours. But wait, just like the lottery, we don't deserve what we have. We haven't earned anything. Rather, it's been given. In fact, we can't even say what we have is our own, can we? But it all belongs to God. And it's His decision, not ours, whether it should be given or not. So we can't say, all right, we're going to be okay with it, even if we can't keep what is ours, because it wasn't ours in the first place. It doesn't belong to us. And without hesitation, God has commanded that it be given. Our time, our comfort, our money, our love, our grace, our mercy, on and on and on. It's been commanded not just to be given, but to be set up in such a way that to be taken advantage of. Look at Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, looking at verse 14. Matthew 5, 14 through 16. And hold it open because we're going to go to another passage here. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Now hold open Matthew 5, so we're going to go back there in a minute. But we need to acknowledge something. Letting our light shine, it's pretty dangerous. Everything that could ever put out the light, well, it's out there. It's not in here, right? A city on a hill. Well, Sarah and I, not this weekend, but the weekend before, we went into the Adirondacks and we climbed the Cascade Mountain. We were pretty comfortable until you got onto the bare rock face of the top of the mountain, and as soon as you stepped onto the peak, here comes the wind, and it was cold. I mean, the temperature just dropped. A city set on a hill. The top of the hill is the most dangerous place for a light. It's cold, and it's windy. And why would you ever put a light under a basket? Well, you do it to protect it, don't you? I don't want the light to go out, so I'm going to protect it from the wind. But when you put a basket over the top of the light, what happens to the light? It goes out anyway. If we were to leave our light under the basket, it would suffocate. In other words, if we don't let the light out in the midst of danger, we'll in fact lose it altogether. The light must shine, or it will cease to be light at all. It hurts to be taken advantage of. Every part of our being cries out that this is wrong, and we should speak out, that we should stop them. This is my hard-earned blessing, and they should go earn their own. But notice that every protest ultimately leads us back to the same point. None of it belongs to us in the first place. Every protest brings it back to, but this is mine. They should go get their... No, it's not mine. It's not ours to be hoarded. In fact, it's not even us being the ones taken advantage of. Everything, including our very being, belongs to God. When we are saved, it's not just our own personal fulfillment in life. We are saved so that the world might be saved. We are given so that we might give. We are blessed in order to bless. We are shown mercy so that we might show mercy. We are forgiven so that we can forgive. Don't cry foul when the world rips you off or takes advantage of you. Rather, if you know the world is coming, let's face it, we've been told what's going to happen, haven't we? Then plan on it. Set up 2 extra plates on the table. Don't light a candle. If you know company's coming and they're going to take advantage of the light of your candle, then build a fire. Build a bonfire. Say, come here, I've got extra. Take advantage of what I worked hard to get. Oh, wait. What I've been given. Be prepared to be taken advantage of and even look forward to it. It means, this is what it means. If we are being taken advantage of because of our faith and our blessing and our salvation, it means that the world has noticed that we have faith, blessing, and salvation. If we're not being taken advantage of for our faith, blessing, and salvation, then it means that maybe the world hasn't seen anything at all. If we step back and ask ourselves, wait, I'm not being taken advantage of. Nobody's trying to steal my blessing. Well, maybe that's because nobody knows you're blessed. Because the light's hiding under a bushel. It's like where Paul talks about we should take joy in our sufferings because we're being treated the same way that Jesus was. To be taken advantage of means that the world has seen that you have something of value, something that they want. The Sermon on the Mount involves so much of preparation for us to have company and for us to have the world that wants what you have. Look down at Matthew chapter 5, verse 38. Matthew 5:38 on. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. And give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. But I know they're not really going to borrow. I'm never going to see it again. Right? Why does this verse make us so uncomfortable? Why does it bother us so much? It's because we believe that what we have, we actually earned. And it actually belongs to us. When the truth of the gospel is allowed to penetrate us, we'll stop raising our defenses and stop being so upset at the suggestion that Jesus actually meant what he said. It's crazy to think that Israel would just let these Egyptians and foreigners come with them and reap the benefit of the God of Israel. I mean, don't you think they're going to have a hard enough time wandering through the desert, let alone adding to their numbers? It's crazy that God would allow his people to try and manipulate him. It's crazy that Jesus was taken advantage of so mightily. It's crazy that he asked the very same thing of us. We may not have won the New York State Lottery, but we have come across something of so much greater value. We may have not seen it, but we have come across the gospel of Christ, the blessing of salvation. Unfounded, unmerited, undeserved forgiveness and love. More than we could possibly ever handle, and more than we could possibly ever possess. Do not be afraid of someone getting by on your efforts, but rather prepare all the harder so that there is room for them as well. We are the light of the world. We need to stop being content with simply shining a candle. Candle cannot be shared, and no one wants your candle anyway. We need to become a bonfire, showing very clearly the light of the gospel all that it is and all that it has done. We need to unveil our most precious, most hidden, most highly regarded jewels and treasures of life. We must reveal ourselves to the world and show them the very desire of their hearts. We must show them Jesus and never be afraid that there will not be enough left for us.